All right, cool. How's it going, everyone? I'm David from Comic Book Investments, and this is Sean and Spencer from Comics and Crypto. How's it going?
Doing
Hey,
great.
thanks for having us, David.
Thanks for having us. Yeah,
No
that's
problem.
great.
So I got your information from Dan.
Chabelle.
What?
Dan Chabelle.
Chabelle. Okay. He hit me up because I did a video on VeVe, which I would call VeVe. And then someone brought up an interesting point. Someone was like, how come it's not me and it's meme? So wouldn't it be VeVe? And I was like, that's interesting. I don't know.
What
But
would be
It's because they capitalized the second V. That's why. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's it.
So I did a video, and I mean, I got a ridiculous amount of comments, like way too much. I like to respond to everyone, but I'm like, I can't respond to everyone. But there's a couple people that are helpful, a lot of trolls, but a couple people are helpful. And Dan was one of the people, and he reached out to me and he's like, you really need to talk to Comics and Crypto. And so then I reached out to you guys, and now we're setting up this. And I want to learn more from people that know more than me. And because I have questions, and I think that people, my audience, or maybe other people that your audience or whatever, they'll have questions too. And they, hopefully we can answer as many as we can and kind of go over everything, and people can learn. And that's kind of the point of the YouTube anyways, is to learn and have fun. So so why don't you guys tell me your kind of backgrounds, maybe not just in VeVe, but in YouTube, comics, all that stuff.
Yeah, why don't we just start from the beginning?
You were born.
Yeah, not that far.
Your mother's maiden name, social security number.
I've been a collector for a long time, my whole life actually, but I've been investing in comic books specifically for about a little over 5 years now. And I met Spencer back in what, four years?
It
Actually,
was
around
May 2017. Yeah.
Yeah. And we met actually backpacking in Germany. Spencer's from the East Coast.
Prague. Prague is
Prague. Oh yeah.
But we went to Germany too, though. Yeah.
Did you meet in Europe?
Yeah.
Yeah. In our hostel.
So we met at a hostel. Yeah.
Both random people in a hostel.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
We just set it off.
I went backpacking through Europe with my best friend, and it's definitely like if you're with like a guy friend as opposed to like a girlfriend or something like that, it's so much better because you can stay in the worst places ever and feel fine.
That's true.
Yeah.
If you're a girl, there's girls that we went and I'm backpacking by myself, and we would stay in dumps like $5 a night and things like that.
Yeah. I've made a lot of girlfriends that are traveling alone too. Yeah, it's impressive, man. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, we met out there and we just clicked and we just stayed in touch. And yeah, I visited him in Boston. He visited me in California, and then he came visit me one time, and we went to San Francisco. But he started telling me about cryptocurrency, and I was like, okay, interesting, cryptocurrency. This is like what, 2018, Spencer?
Yeah, I think it was 2018. Yeah, in the spring. Yeah.
And he had me invest in a currency called Engine Coin.
Engine Coin, yeah.
It's like a Engine Coin, and back in a year ago now, in 2020, it took off. I mean, a lot of crypto took off, but especially Engine Coin. I was like, yo, Spencer, so tell me what's going on with this cryptocurrency stuff? What's going on here? What am I missing out on? And then, yeah, Spencer started telling me more about it.
Yeah, I mean, just a little bit like my background. Like, I started investing in crypto in 2017. Initially it was more just speculation, trying to make some money, but then did a really deep dive on the technology and got just incredibly excited about what it could do and just the implications for the future. So beyond that, I was really just flipping and just really just doing short-term investing, but then saw the long-term vision. So I've been more of a long-term investor in crypto ever since, and then started with NFTs in 2018. So got really involved in that space as well. But yeah, like Engine Coin was one of the first cryptocurrencies that I got really excited about. It's a gaming cryptocurrency, and they have this whole ecosystem of indie games that are built using NFT technology. But yeah, so I introduced Sean to this, and yeah, so I think it was probably like January of, I don't know, I guess 2021, around there. Very beginning of last year, and he just hit me up. He was like, "Hey, dude, this Engine Coin thing that you told me to invest in is it's doing pretty well." But
you guys still have it?
Oh yeah, I still do. Yeah.
Yeah, I do actually.
Yeah.
And,
Has it gone
and
down? I know a bunch of crypto got
yeah,
hit.
it's been going up like a roller coaster.
Yeah, I bought it so cheap that, you know, I'm not concerned about these, you know,
all
kind of
about the long-term
the dips that
vision.
are going. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's take a
yeah,
super long-term mindset on this
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, that's how I invest. Like, yeah, I just don't like the roller coaster of short-term investing. Like,
Right.
because anytime you do that, you're always mad because you didn't time it perfectly. And you can never time it perfectly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to live like that. I just want to put my money in something, forget about it. I have work and I have other things going on in my life.
Exactly.
That's my philosophy.
I lose sleep over it too. I'll like wake up in the
That's
middle of the
such a
night,
good
like
point.
with just like racing thoughts about the next trade I have to make. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not sustainable now.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I got into crypto probably around. I thought it was like because of COVID. Like, I feel like there's like a 2-year gap in my memory because nothing happened.
Yeah.
But I got into crypto. I think it was 4,000 a coin is when I got into Bitcoin. I think that was 2017. And because they pretty close right after it jumped up to 7,000 coin, I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And then it went up to like 19, and then it like dropped all the way back down to like 3, and then it started coming back around. So I would say, like, I think a lot of people get a misconception about cryptocurrency and they compare it to like Bitcoin because they're like, oh, remember those people that doubted cryptocurrency? I'm like, you do realize that like 99.999% of all cryptocurrency is like garbage and like shouldn't even exist and is just made for like for scamming people. Like, yeah, you might have like a handful of coins out of like the ridiculous amounts. There's a coin, I'm not joking, and I did this just as a joke. There's sometimes I play with money as a joke. It's literally, the coin is called like Elon Doge coin or something like that. It's just like, it's a meme coin. And me and my friend just like joked, like, oh, we should buy. And I put like $50 into it. But it's like, that's not a real, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
So one of the issues I have with Bitcoin is like, because I've been in it for so long and, you know, I've heard all these promises and everything like that. And some have come true, some have not. But the issue I have is, one of the thoughts was like, okay, this is going to replace like currency, and people are saying like, oh, Venezuela could use a cryptocurrency because, you know, Venezuela is like, they're screwed with their currency, things like that. And countries, that way it's not tied to some government just destroying your currency on a whim. But the problem is, it's so volatile. Like, if you got paid and your rent was $2,000 a month and you get $3,000 a month and you get paid in Bitcoin, 1 month, it's like, okay, cool, I made rent, have extra money. The next month it drops in half, can't make rent, you're evicted. So it's like, you need currency to be so boring and never really move. Like, I think normal inflation is 2% a year. That's boring. But
thank you, USDT.
I was going to say that's why we have stable coins. Exactly.
And that's like kind of like my worry about Bitcoin. You know, Bitcoin's like the biggest. So that's why I'm mentioning Bitcoin is like, I just feel like, I'm like, when is it gonna, you know, stable out? And when are we not gonna have big swings? When is it gonna be like 3,000 one year and the next year it went up to $3,006 or something like that? You know, do you see that happening, or is this gonna be like Bitcoin will be that way?
Eventually it'll stabilize, definitely. I mean, but it takes, you know, wide scale adoption, and frankly, we are just still pretty early.
I mean, even there's been great examples, like Kathy Woods has talked about how she compares digital gold, which is Bitcoin, to physical gold, and same with the Winklevoss twins. They've talked about it too. And, you know, gold has an $11 trillion market cap. So if that's the case, then Bitcoin, you know, eventually, if they consider it as equals, potentially could be a $500,000 coin in the future. That's what would equal $11 trillion in matching. So, and recently I think Kathy Woods even talked about how it's going to go past that and potentially go up to $1 million a coin. I don't know what that'll do to inflation, but
$1 million a coin since I got in it.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly.
But hearing it from people on that level is pretty wild. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, in terms of like stability, though, I mean, it's really going to come down to like, once you have like wide scale adoption within financial institutions, it's being traded regularly, it's in ETFs, and, you know, once it's like really like ingrained in the financial, you know, process, that's when you'll start to see it become more stable, because you just have so many people that are paying attention to it and are using it. Right now, it's just like there's big swings because there's, you know, there's opportunity for people to trade it. So people do, and people manipulate the market, and so it nosedives and then it skyrockets, and it moves in cycles.
So
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I look at the future, and the way I see it is we're going to have some kind of digital currency, so to speak. I don't know if that's Bitcoin. I don't know if that's Ethereum. I mean, it could be something completely different that hasn't come around yet. But I think in the future, it's going to be something like this. I mean, I know there's a lot of issues with Bitcoin about like how much it costs energy wise to mine and all this stuff. I mean, that's why Tesla stopped taking it. They took it for like a month or something. So
I'm rooting for Omi, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah. So, but there's so many coins out there. There's so many coins. But yeah, there was like a 2-hour like documentary on YouTube. It came out a couple weeks ago. I think I wrote it down. It's like over the line or above the line. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about? Something line.
No, I know.
It's one of the people sent it to me. The line goes up, and it was like a 2-hour documentary of like guy much smarter than me, and he kind of talked about NFTs and crypto and all these different pitfalls and things like that. But yeah,
I'll double check it out. Nice.
Yeah, it's 2 hours long. But it doesn't feel like 2 hours long, especially when like YouTube has that cool feature where you can like 1.5 times speed things. And so you can watch things so much faster.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So, I mean, I use that all the time. And the only time I slow it down is when I'm like, okay, I need to soak this part in. But if I'm just listening to a podcast and there's rambling like we're rambling now, I'm sure people are,
so like,
all right, 2x speed.
So speaking of Bitcoin, like I couldn't even tell you what Bitcoin was back when, Spencer, when Engine Coin went up. And I told Spencer, you got to get involved with comic books. You got to get involved investing in comic books. It's so awesome. I'm having a great time. I'm learning so much. I became obsessed. When I was a kid, I used to be obsessed with baseball cards and baseball, football cards and Beckett's and looking at investments going up and down. So it kind of re-emerged my passion for investing, from being a kid. And I would teach Spencer about investing. He'd teach me about crypto.
Yeah, there was like a 3-month period where like nonstop, all day, every day, all we were doing was talking about comics. Yeah,
hours,
it was just like
hours,
like a crash course on comics. Yeah,
it was so cool that I have an opportunity to talk to somebody who's actually excited about it. Besides my friends are like, Sean, come on, go just talk about something else.
Yeah,
and then I started researching other projects, and I came across this project called VeVe. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I think I watched it on a YouTube channel. And then I saw a video that talked about, so just to backtrack a little bit, VeVe is a digital collectibles app where you can buy and sell digital collectibles and licensed digital collectibles. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Licensed. Okay. So it's coming from the direct brands, which is a really big deal. And that's when I came across this video. I talked about first appearances. And it talked about like specifically Batman. And this is the first time we ever see Batman in digital format. And it's a statue. It's a digital version of Todd McFarlane's black and white statue of Batman. And it's also a play on Batman 423. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, now we're on to something. And big shout out to Chad from NFT Pirates. He made that video. He's a good friend of the podcast, amazing channel. And I'm like, okay, this is something, we're on to something here. And I hit up Spencer. And then Spencer, what were your thoughts on that when I talked to you about it?
Yeah, I mean, like I was on the app, and I think we kind of like we came to the same conclusion like simultaneously, that just like not realizing it. I think you watched that video, and I was just like playing around on the app and looking at the metadata, and I noticed that one of the metadata items was first appearance for a lot of these characters. And it just like, because of all the stuff that we've been talking about with comics and recognize the importance of first appearance in comic books, like that just like clicked in my head. And then you called me and we just like geeked out, for probably 3 hours straight on it,
Yeah, especially when you found out you can actually play with these in augmented reality, like AR.
Do you guys have Oculus?
No,
but I played with them. Yeah. That's VR, but yeah.
This is Frankie.
Frankie.
What's up, dude? But yeah, so this collectible, what a cute dog, man. I love dogs. So Batman is only 7,777 of them. Is that right?
Like around there, yeah.
Yeah, around there. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like a lot now, but Batman, I mean, he's one of the biggest characters of all time. And if people adopt this space, there could be incredible potential there. So, but I didn't know much about NFTs. So I came to Spencer for advice on that. And Spencer, yeah, go take it from there.
No, I mean, yeah, we just like really just like spent a lot of time researching and, you know, watching videos of other people in the space. Cause, you know, before we were making videos about this stuff, you know, there were a whole slew of really amazing content creators that were already in the space doing this. So, you know, we just like spent a ton of time learning and, yeah, just playing around with the app and
yeah.
Go ahead, Sean.
I didn't know what NFTs were, and Spencer explained it to me. Like, so it's really having a chance to have true ownership in the digital space. It creates authenticity, which is really important because even the physical world, I mean, there's forgery constantly. I mean, you see that all the time, especially signatures. All the time. It's crazy.
I mean, like
I saw that video with Mickey Mantle about Mickey Mantle. And it's so true. Yeah. I saw that. I saw your video.
And it happened with CBCS. You know, someone literally on YouTube, he showed himself doing it, and he got it past CBCS. And
wow.
I mean, they say that most Mickey Mantle's signatures are fake because there's a documentary about a person just faking everything and making all this money.
That's
so
crazy.
I mean, they think the Mona Lisa is fake.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. Yeah,
they think because it was stolen. The Mona Lisa was stolen, and so they think that the person stole it, faked it, forged it, and because back when it was stolen, I think it was like the early 1900s or late 1800s, and so it's not like people had pictures of this thing to verify it. They faked it. The guy sold the real one, and then the one that we see is the forged one. That's a speculation. No one knows for sure.
No?
Yeah. so I bought that Batman statue, and it was a couple $100s at the time, and I'm like, what did I just buy? I don't understand this. But I was excited about it because it's Batman, you know, and it's there's only a few of them.
How much? And I mean, how much do those sell for now? The Batman statues.
The Batman.
There's a bunch of them.
There's a peak around I think $12,000 to $15,000, and now it's dipped back down to around 6 or 7, I believe.
Yeah, around there. Yeah,
around there. Yeah, and but then over time we started researching more about the space and this company specifically, and that's when I got excited. That's when I realized, okay, this company is for real. I mean, the leadership team is absolutely incredible. The head of licensing is this guy named Alfred Kahn, who brought Pokemon into the United States. I mean, he basically discovered Cabbage Patch Kids. He had the licensing rights to Nintendo for 10 years in North America. The guy is just absolutely incredible. He's an incredible guy, yeah. And then the leadership team is absolutely amazing. You know, all the way up to David Yu, who's the founder of the company. At 19 years old, he wrote a letter to Alfred Kahn, and he's from New Zealand, and to ask for the licensing rights for Pokemon trading cards in New Zealand, and he gave it to him at 19 years old.
19,
and he apparently still has the licensing rights today for those Pokemon trading cards. Yeah, it's wild. And
he just gave it. He didn't buy it. They just gave it to him.
I don't know the full scale of the story. There's actually a video out there of Alfred Kahn talking about it. But yeah, he still has it today. It's apparently it's amazing.
That's cool.
And then I learned, I mean, the product itself was very impressive to me. And the fact that you can play with it in AR was really cool. And also the partnerships. And at the time they had DC, they had Warner Brothers, they had Universal, they had Givenchy, which is a company that's attached to Louis Vuitton. And I'm okay, their partnerships are solid, exclusive licensing rights to these companies. But what I didn't realize was the community. How amazing this community is. That these people, man. I mean, I've made friendships over the past 6 months to a year that will stick with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
100%.
that's cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
for that.
And that's one of the things like why I wanted to do because when I did the video originally, I thought, you know, I was telling you, Sean, the other day on the phone, I was like, oh, this is going to be a throwaway video. And what I mean by that is like, I only have so much time to dedicate to filming videos, and I do one a day. And so some videos I call them throwaway videos where I don't spend that much time on them, as in, you know, with editing and all this kind of stuff. Like I even wrote a script for the VeVe one, but I thought like it's probably gonna get like 500 views, and like I didn't like think it would do that well. If I knew so many people, I would like, okay, I would edit this better. I would like my points were all over the place. Like I didn't even have like. It was just like more of like ramble than like actual sit down. Here, let me show this, show that, show this, show that.
Yeah.
And so
it's a new space.
And so I literally thought it would get, because I did a video on NFTs like a long time ago and it got like nothing. And so I was like, okay, this will be the same. People keep asking me. So I was like, okay, I'll do this video real quick. And so I can move on and have more time to do my other videos. And
it's funny because you probably got more exposure because of how it went down than if you just like made a really positive video about VeVe, you know?
That's true. That's true. Like, you know, people
so true.
love negative stuff. So, so yeah, it's very. I was like, okay, all right, I would be doing the VeVe community a disservice, my subscribers a disservice, and anyone else that comes along if I didn't really dig in and really understand it and have a dialogue about it. Because if I would have just left it at that video and moved along, I just feel like that's a disservice. And I'm here, like the way I see it, I'm here to like teach people as much as I know. Like I'm a comic book dealer. I've been doing it for, full-time 13 years. That's what I do every day. I don't have another job. I don't have anything else. Like I just do a comic book dealer. I own a website, and it's an auction house as well. So people will send us stuff and we auction it off. So I've been doing that.
You have incredible insight, man. And congratulations on your auction. Like,
oh, thank you.
Those record 9.8 sales, man, are awesome.
I know. I was so surprised when I got
cool,
that.
Man. Yeah. And that 1.5 sale, 1.8 sale of the FF1.
Yeah, 1.8 FF1.
Come on. Yeah.
It was like
it haunted me.
It's been like 5 years in the making, and it's still not done, but it's done as enough, and spent like hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of many years trying to get this thing off the ground. Went through handful of developers because I can't code. So we had to hire people. And one person we hired didn't do anything for 9 months and just build us.
Oh, God.
And like was like, oh, I'm working on this back end stuff. And like, well, we can't see anything. We don't know. It's like, oh, this is not working. This is now working. I'm like, can we see something? And like, oh, we have to do the front end for that. And I'm like, oh my God.
Well, you're off to a great start.
Yeah. So now we have a good guy. His name's Mark. He's great. But yeah, I wanted to go through because like when I originally saw VeVe like many months ago, I just saw a bunch of red flags. And then when I was doing it for the video, I still saw a bunch of red flags. And so I kind of like, I just want to go through, because if I'm having these issues, other people in the comments like, yeah, David, I thought the same thing as you. And that's why I kind of want to talk to you about it and kind of address these issues and just kind of see, I know you don't work for the company, but maybe you can lend more insight into some issues. So let's see. So one of the things, and I talked briefly to Sean about it on the phone, but a lot of comments I got was people were like, oh, I can't afford to buy a Phantasm 4 #1. And so now I can buy this and I can actually read it because I couldn't read a Phantasm 4 #1 or maybe a book, that's too expensive. And I was confused because I was like, well, Comixology, which is now owned by Amazon, has been around for decades, like since 2007. MarvelComics.com, you can pay $10 a month and read any comic book. And Comixology, it's, I think, $1.99 per comic book. And it goes in your little comic shelf and you can read it. And so I think there's like a misconception that you can read these comics online. They exist in a digital form. But what Sean was saying, it's not about that. It's about the ownership of these digital comics.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to, do you think in the VeVe community that there's maybe a misconception that they're like, they know they own it, but maybe they don't realize that you could get this and read it in other places?
Spencer, you got this?
Sure. I mean, I'm sure there's people that think that don't know about those other services. But I mean, at the same time, though, you can think about it this way, that none of these people would have heard of these services anyway if they hadn't been introduced to VeVe and had gotten into digital comic books. So many people, weren't even remotely, involved in the space, or either NFTs or comic books or just collecting in general. So yeah, I mean, this really brought people in. So I think people maybe now are realizing that those other options are out there, but I think what people really care about is the collecting aspect of it and actually having the ownership of it. Because, Comixology, I doubt this would happen, but, realistically, like this is like just an entry on a centralized server owned by Marvel or whoever runs the website. And, if something were to happen and the server were to go down, all that data would be lost, and your ownership doesn't exist. Whereas you actually own this. This is an NFT asset that is in your wallet, and because you maintain ownership, nobody can take it away from you. So even if an issue happens, it's still yours.
So that brings. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, it's okay, Dave. Go ahead.
Oh, that brings me to an interesting thing you're mentioning. Like if the website went down, what happens if VeVe goes down? What happens to because right now your collectibles exist in the VeVe market on VeVe. What happens if, I don't know, all their servers just go up in flames, or they shut down and they can't sell their database to anyone else or anything like that? Like, what happens then to your collectible currently?
Yeah, well, they all live on the blockchain. They're actual NFTs that have been minted on the blockchain. And although you interact with them, through like a centralized environment, they are still NFT assets. So, theoretically, you'd be able to move them elsewhere and still own them and still have them, even if VeVe were to go away.
If VeVe were to go away for any reason, that Marvel, I mean, for example, Marvel and Disney, they can take these NFTs off the VeVe platform whenever they want. They have true owner. They have the licensing rights to these NFTs.
Exactly.
Right. So if VeVe ever went down for any reason, which they could actually take these NFTs off and build them elsewhere, or use them elsewhere, or sell them elsewhere. But yeah.
So I mean, yeah, it's kind of like what's happening with Netflix and Daredevil, the TV shows, right? Because they're going off of Netflix, because Netflix is, even though they created them, they don't own the rights to Daredevil, Punisher, all that stuff. And so Disney, the way I saw it was Disney's like, okay, we don't know about this whole streaming thing, so let's license to another company. Oh, what do you know? 5 years later, it's a huge deal. We'll create our own. And by the way, Netflix, here, come give them here. So one of the issues I have is what happens because eventually one or two things will happen. Either Marvel/Disney will take back their NFTs, or they will buy VeVe, right? Instead of building out their own. That's the only two options they have, unless VeVe closed down and Marvel goes, this is trash, we don't even want to deal with it anymore. Because if this continues to grow, like I imagine you guys want it to, then that's the only options for it. I see a couple issues there. You will never be able to have DC Comics on a Marvel-owned platform, because Warner Brothers, which is now owned by Discovery, I believe, or the parent company, they will be like, we're not going to let you control Batman and how many releases you have and all that kind of stuff. So you'll never have those two competing companies on the same platform. Right now, you have statues, and maybe one day there will be Batman comics and Superman comics on VeVe. But if one of those companies, like imagine if Warner Brothers buys VeVe, do you think Marvel is going to be like, oh, hell no? They're not going to be like, yeah. Disney is like, yeah, keep our Spider-Man comics that we made. No, they're going to.
Definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah. That actually was one of the reasons why what attracted me so much about VeVe was because they had DC, and I was speculating they also had Marvel for probably about 2 months before they actually announced it. And that's why I was like, okay, I'm all in on this company, because the fact that DC and Marvel could come together on the same platform, that's incredible, because they understand the value. They understand the value in the space.
It is incredible. But the thing is, in the long term, if this continues to grow, Disney is going to be like, whoa. So I could have a kid come to my park. He can then spend some money and buy an NFT of a Goofy at the Disneyland park that is like, only exclusive to, Disneyland. They're going to do stuff like that. They can make money like that, and where you can only buy certain things at the park, which generates people to have to go to the park. So they're going to eventually need some kind of NFT program. So like I said, they'd either buy their own, or buy VeVe, or they build their own, which in that case, that would take everything off if they bought VeVe. But if DC has their comics on there, DC will probably have something in their contract saying like, nah, if you sell or someone buys you out, we get all the stuff back, which would then separate Marvel and DC comics never existing on the same platform. As in like physical comics, I can just put my Superman and my Spider-Man right next to each other. So, I mean, this is just a concern in my head.
Yeah. I think either way, though, you just have to keep in mind it wouldn't devalue the current NFTs, regardless of what happens. Even if they left the VeVe platform, it's not, they're still the first of their kind. It's all written in the metadata. So there's no reason to be concerned about whether they leave VeVe or not. They'll always be the first Marvel. They'll always be the first Disney.
Okay, so what if Marvel takes these back or makes their own, and then they recreate, what's one Ultimate Fallout 4? That's already been released on VeVe.
Well, they can't take back something they've already released. It's once an NFT's already been created, it's in people's wallets. Like there's nothing that they can do to take those assets back. they could make a reprint if they wanted to.
Yeah,
and make a set. They could make a second edition, which is great for the holders of the first edition. It'll just drive the value up for that one.
So that's
I mean, it's just like, you know, Marvel
Yeah.
currently releases, you know, second, third, fourth prints of books, and you
Yeah,
know,
as-
I think
as you know,
it's very
yeah.
likely we'll see,
Yeah.
you know, very similar things happen with these books too.
So that's why you're on, you know, you're all about I don't know what they're called, but serial numbers basically. Like you
Mhm.
want, you know, 0001 or, you know, number 100 minted or something like that. That's basically what is more important in the VeVe community, is making sure you have those early basically mintings, because they could remint, which would basically be like a reprint, adding more numbers to that same book.
Yeah, they won't add any more to the NFT. So UF4, for example, they won't add any more editions because they would take away value of the current total editions and also discredit the company. It would. And people would be very upset by that, and they'll never do that.
I'm saying if like Marvel decided to do it, Disney takes back these NFTs because they're building their own platform in Disneyland and all this kind of stuff, and then they're like, well, we can make more money by re-releasing, you know, I don't know what's out. Is there Spider-Man 1? Is that one released?
ASM 1,
Yeah.
yeah.
If they're like, yeah, we're going to release, you know, Spider-Man 1 again. I mean, they could. I mean, there's nothing to stop them from, you know, doing that and trying to make money.
Definitely.
Sure.
Yeah, but I don't think that takes anything away from the value of the original assets, though, even if they did a second printing. You know, if anything, it just makes the first printing more valuable.
And they would label
just
it
like
that way
else.
as such.
Yeah. Oh,
they
yeah,
would label it
exactly.
as such, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing that I ran into was when I would check out like reviews of this, it's literally either a 5 or a 1, like nothing in between.
Yeah.
It's either like people gung-ho about it or people say they hate it. And one of the things that they say, and it's usually like 50-50, close to maybe 60-40, hate it or like it versus hate it, is people complain about bots. And I know you can buy bots that basically, and we talked about it, Sean. That's why I didn't want to talk too much on the phone, because we were like rehashing.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, this is good.
And basically bots that you could buy, and they get, you know, the drops early. And a lot of people were complaining because here they would try to stay up and get these drops, and then lo and behold, some other person would have like, oh, I got 20 of them. And it's like, you know, and Sean was saying that there is an issue with bots. What do you see in, you know, Spencer, what do you see with like the experience with bots, and how what's like the future of VeVe with these bots? And I don't know if they've said anything or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is an issue. It's something that they're working on as well. So like some things in the future that will, I guess, make the situation a little bit better is they're actually changing the drop system. So they're actually going to be doing a queuing system instead of just like an open drop. So, you know, I think that'll reduce the amount of bots that are going to be able to get involved. And additionally, they're also going to be doing KYC for basically for cash out, you know, so for, you know, MTL, when they get their money transfer license, and if you want to be able to, you know, cash out your OMI tokens or your gems to US dollars, you're gonna have to verify your identity in order to do that. So, you know, if you want to be able to cash out, you know, you're gonna have to verify your identity, and therefore that reduces the number of bots as well.
And the prices for that, and numbers, the fees have come out to estimated around 15%, which is kind of actually very similar to eBay.
Yeah, that's about, you know, people, it's like a 10% eBay final value fee, but then there's like a 3% payment processing fee, and then there's a bunch of other little fees. It's roughly around 15% when all said and done. That's another question I have is, I didn't mention this in my video, but for those that don't know, currently the way it stands is you buy gems, and then you take those gems, and then you can buy collectibles with it. But currently, you cannot change those gems for real dollars. I know that some people will go and do it off-site, or like on eBay or something like that, and then you kind of have to hope it works out, because I mean, you don't like if I just email someone on a random forum and like, yeah, I'll take that for whatever, and they PayPal me the money, and then I'm like, oh, okay, sweet, you know, but. And I know there's a lot of talks about, what do you call it, MTL?
Yeah, money transfer license.
Okay, and now is that going to be straight, I take my gems and I transfer it into cash? Or is that going to be, I'm going to take my gems, transfer it into a cryptocurrency, which then I have to transfer into cash?
No, you actually be able to transfer directly to cash.
And also you can cash out in cryptocurrency as well.
If you wanted to, as another option.
Yeah. That'd be another option. Yeah. So both.
Yeah. But basically until that, until it gets released, people are forced to use like escrow services and like Telegram or Facebook in order to, there's kind of like these secondary gem markets, where people buy discounted gems or sell discounted gems. So there's this whole other market that is pretty cool. It's another way for people to make money in this ecosystem currently, until MTL gets released.
Yeah. But just make sure if you do go that route, go about it safely. We actually have a video on our YouTube channel that talks about specifically how to avoid scammers, and people are scammed. It happens every day.
All the time.
It's absolutely terrible, and it breaks my heart. And people actually make fake profiles of me and do it too. It's terrible.
Yeah. People impersonate Sean all the time.
It's awful. So just make sure to do it safely. Do it safely.
That's the thing with like crypto. There's this, because it's so kind of like, the good thing about it is it's like very untraceable, that kind of stuff. But then because of that, it's like very scam heavy.
Yeah.
So that's like a massive issue with it. But so it's like with the bot system, with the drops, they're going to do it where you basically show up, you get into a room, which will then limit you to what? Just one drop per I guess, device that you have.
Account. Yeah.
So, because I think it's kind of messed up how it's like people are trying to get one, and then these people are coming along getting like 20, and it's like, because if you went to a comic shop, you would go to the owner and like, oh, they're dropping this new Spider-Man comic book. They advertise and everything, and the customer is like, oh, get me two, and they tell them, and so then the local comic shop will write down, okay, I have 20 customers, and they each want however many they want, so I'll order that many. Then I'll order extra in case people walk in and see it and want it. And then if I sell out of all of those, then I'll do another order, and maybe Marvel has to do a second printing or what like that. But if you go in there and like, oh, I really want this comic, and the comic shopper's like, yeah, sure, I'll get you some. You go in there and like, oh, sorry, some guy came and bought all 50 pairs, copies, and it's like, what? Like, that's messed up.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, that happens in the real world too. People wait in line. Actually, spend hours in line. Here, you only have to wait a few minutes.
and immediately if you got it or not. So
yeah. So I see that as like, kind of like it. This brings like, shows like a red flag. It's like, okay, this guy has like 20. This person didn't get any, and now they instantly list them on the secondary market for 2 to 3 times the price of what they just were, what they bought them for. So it lends like, okay, like. That's why I said in there, it's like, I only think like 1,000 to 2,000 people are actually buying this, and the rest is like from the company. Little I didn't know is probably from bots and like just a handful of people. And then they like basically buy them all, and then they can kind of control the market of that, which then raises the price. Like that's how, like in my mind, I'm like, that's how I'm like looking at it. Because
there definitely are problems with I understand. And there definitely are problems with bots, but there are insane amount of people coming into this app too. There's over 2 million plus people now, active users on this app. And there's 200,000 plus users coming in every week. I mean, that's crazy for an app that's only been around for a year. That's unbelievable. Yeah. So, I mean, that's also, people don't realize that there's a lot of people on this app trying to get these collectibles.
Yeah.
It's really tough. It's tough competition, but these problems are being resolved, and it's all work in progress. Everyone just got to realize this is a new company.
Yeah.
It's going in the right direction.
Yeah, the botting is definitely an issue, but I mean, something that I kind of see a bright side of the botting is like, yes, people do have to pay higher prices in the secondary market in order to get stuff, but generally who they're selling it to is the collectors. So even though they may not be getting it at the initial price that they wanted it at, generally it's getting into the hands of the people that should be having it anyway. So yeah.
And that's like one of the main things I brought up is like, I feel like a lot of people on this platform are, because even when I look up, just type in VeVe on YouTube, it's all about, I tripled my money, 200x my money, in gems, but like, or it's like how to like make money on VeVe, how to do this. And like, I get it. It just seems so pushing the idea of this is how like to make money. And the reason why comics are valuable is because comics were not meant to be collected. The original comics were actually meant to be read, probably thrown away. And that's why they're so valuable, is because that's what happened to most of them. But this idea is like jumping into it straight up as an investment almost. And that's like, that gives me pause, because once something is made to be collected, then it becomes less collectible, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, even for me, I mean, I when I started reinvesting into comic books, I mean, I realized, oh wow, there's an ROI here. But then I fell in love with it. I became so passionate about
That's
it,
what I was
man.
gonna say.
I every day at 5 hours a day, even at work, I'm just like, just going on Go Collect and see what's in the top 10 today, just scouting like crazy. And I would say that VeVe has turned people into collectors. There are a lot of people who are excited about investing, no question. Everyone likes to make money. Who doesn't like to make money?
No, I think most people enter VeVe as an investor. Like that, most people enter to make money, but then they quickly get obsessed and want to actually do the collecting side.
Okay, that's good, because that's what you need. Because like I said before in my video, it's like, if everyone's an investor, then all they care about is making returns. So if you come in and you're like, okay, I need to double my money for this to make sense, right? Or I can put my money in something else to, double my money, or whatever it is, whatever threshold you have. But eventually it'll get too high where no one can actually make money, because it's like, oh, $10 million for this, Spider-Man number, 252 common. Sure. At some point it's like, well, I can't double my money to $20 million on that one. So that's why I'm like, it gives me like kind of like, okay. It needs to have collectors, because there's people even in the comic space that will buy a book, even if it's $100,000, and like, this is going into my PC personal collection, and it's never seen the light of day again. And that's why the next time it comes up, it's more because one just came off the market and no one's selling it.
I use that example all the time with like Fantastic Four 1 and Fantastic Four 5. Those highest grades are 9.6. FF1, you got 2 9.6s. That's it. No 9.8s. That's it.
And they're not coming on the market.
And they're not coming on the market. We may never see them ever in our lifetime. That's crazy. Or Fantastic Four 5. There's 3 9.6s. And again, we'll never ever see it. So we may never know the true ceiling of these comic books. But that's why these NFTs could bring that full circle. And that's what I'm excited about. Because I see this world of collecting and investing, it's expanding. It's not going in one direction. The impact that this app is having on this community is incredible. The people are so excited about collecting physical comic books, physical collectibles. I mean, the Todd statue, for example, if you look at the eBay prices over the past couple of months, people have been spending almost over $1,000 on that statue. That's a $200 statue. But people are buying it because of VeVe. Same with Batman 423. People are buying.
Are you talking about the physical counterpart or the
digital? Yeah. Exactly, the physical counterpart. There's only 5,000 total editions. And then same with the comic book, Batman 423, which is the inspiration of that statue. People are buying that comic book. I've been on a lot of videos recently, and they talked about how that book is skyrocketing in value.
It has.
I'm probably going to say that I put my money on the VeVe community buying up those comics because they're excited about it. And it shows how many people this is impacting,
Yeah, and that's the thing with like, I'm not here to tell people what they should and shouldn't collect, what they should and shouldn't invest in, because like, who am I, right? And anything can be collectible to anyone, right? People collect, I don't know, stamps. I would find that incredibly boring, but there's people that do, and they'll pay a lot of money for it. So
stamps on VeVe.
Yeah. it's like, what you need though is in order for this to last a long time, is you need a deep collector base. And if that's what VeVe is having, then it can survive. My only thing is like, some of these prices for things that go above their physical counterpart makes zero sense to me. Like when I saw the X-Men 170, which is a nothing book, and by nothing I mean it's not expensive, it's not a key, it's not, and it's just a filler book that if someone's completing a run they need. Maybe there's people out there, that was the first comic I ever read, or that's fine. But you can literally find these books for $1 on eBay in like a decent shape. You're not going to get it graded by CGC, and it's not going to be a 9.8, but a 9.8, which is the top grade, there's like 150. It goes for $100, and case cost alone is almost $40.
Yeah, it's not worth your time or effort to to even get it graded. That's only 150 at N.8. Yeah.
And that's such a fair assessment. I mean, we think about that all the time. We're always connecting the physical and digital counterparts. We're referencing the physical world all the time. We actually have rankings on our LinkedIn, our link tree, and we talk about market caps for the physical comic books, specifically the Grails with the digital. But going back to your comment earlier about X-Men 170, I also think it's because we only have a limited amount of comic books right now. We have a lot of money coming in and a limited amount of comic books, and a lot of people don't really understand a lot of these comic books. You know, they're starting to learn though. They're learning. They're growing. I see it because when originally when we had like maybe 15, 20 comic books, the secret rare floor minimum was about 1,000 gems, about $1,000 minimum. But that comic you just mentioned is about 240 now, 250. So you're starting to see more increasing over time. And that's something we've been preaching for a while, is that as more comic books come out over time, which ones are going to stand the test of time? Which one are the ones you want to invest in? And we reemphasize the grails, Silver Age keys, and the big keys. Those are the ones you want to focus on. And focus on speculation too, because that's always a fun time.
Yeah. And I definitely always say that, if you're having a good time, then you should do it. Just don't. I wouldn't recommend someone selling their house and putting it all in.
Right. Yeah. It's like an investment. But if you got the comic book on the drop and you paid $7 for it, like, why not hold on to it?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's why I was like, why is this selling out even at $7? Right? Like, you play the odds, you can get the secret rare. But I'm like, how is this selling out in minutes when it's a X-Men 170? It just boggled my mind so much. I'm like, I don't it just
because people know immediately, regardless if the comic book is dropped on VeVe, it'll at least minimum double the amount of gems that you bought it for. So 7 gems equals 15 to 20 gems bottom floor. So that's why everyone's going for it, because they want. I mean, it's creating opportunity. And even if you don't want to buy it, you have to keep that comic. You can flip it, get more gems to reinvest back into other things. Like, it's a reemphasize. If we make a HODL or sell video for every comic book drop, and if we don't believe in the comic book, we say sell and reinvest into grails and Silver Age keys, because that's what you should be focusing on.
I would agree with that assessment, even with physical comic books. One thing, I forget his name. I think we talked to him. His Ask Val.
Oh, Cavell Anderson. Big shots,
Cavell Anderson.
Yeah.
So he did a reaction video to my video, and I brought up the X-Men, or maybe it was the Marvel Comics 1, and it was being listed. The secret rare was being listed for like anywhere from starting at 70,000 up to 150,000, and I'm like, this is insane. Like, I was like, it's literally almost the same price as the legit one. And his comment was, they are the same, just one in digital form. And I talked to you briefly about it, and we talked about, I'm like, that just gives so much disrespect to the actual Marvel Comics #1, because one that was minted 6 months ago, a year ago, whatever it was, is not the same as a Marvel Comics from 1939, that there's only 32 that are unrestored and 32 that are restored. Restored meaning someone colored it up, tried to make it better. Collectors don't really want that, so it goes for about half the value. But only 32 exists on the census. And the thing with the census is there's ghosts, which means that someone will get it. They don't like the grade. They crack it out. They send it again, trying to get the higher grade, seeing what they can do to get the bump. So maybe that 32 is really only 25. So if you're actually at 25 that actually exist, that's why they go for hundreds of thousands when they pop up. A 4.0 went for 360. But that was the only one that sold in like 2 years. That was it. So when it comes up, it's like, if you got to go for this one, you go for none at all. And the thing is with that book, back then they probably had millions of copies printed of these books, but they were in the hands of soldiers that were in World War II. They passed through generations. They survived book burnings. In the 50s, there was a Seduction of the Innocents book that came out by a psychiatrist that said comic books are rotting the minds of kids. And so all these moms, you can look them up, there's pictures, took all their kids' comics and burned them. During the war effort in the early 40s, they would actually recycle comic books and take out the staples to make bullets out of them. That's why in like 43 through 44, they only had a single staple instead of two. So that book had to survive all of that to make it to where it is today. And then it's like, it's the same. It's like, it's not. It's like that, right when he said that, I was like, you don't understand comics. Like, that's why people spend so much, is because what that book had to go through to get to where it is today so someone can have it is astronomical.
Yeah, I mean, the physical comic books, obviously, they have their history. And that's me. That's exactly, you brought that up. That's a great point. Like, that comic, when that first dropped as an NFT, I was like, interesting. That comic is lot of history, but not a lot of pop culture history. Not a lot of people know about that comic. That was the first comic that dropped on VeVe, you know. And when it did drop, it did pretty well. But over time, people started to realize the value of this comic and the impact that it's had on everybody. I can almost guarantee you that maybe 1% of the 2 million plus users that have come on VeVe knew about that comic at most. But now the 99% of active users, they know it's a grail. They're excited about it. If anything, they've brought this full circle, and now it's always going to be alive on the blockchain. If those 64 copies are gone, it's going to be alive forever. And that's special, and that's poetic, and the history of what you just said is going to live on forever, and that's what's important.
But I just I'm all for that, but I just don't look at them as the same. I look at them as different things, but the same.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay.
Yeah.
This is just a different form of
exactly.
collecting.
It's a new way of displaying and consuming the content. It's just a new media format, you know.
Exactly. And that's the thing too. We're not trying to say one thing is better than the other. In fact, we talk about how they're going to complement each other in the best way. When I think there's a 9.2 being sold on Heritage in a couple weeks. There's 9.2, and I'm excited about that, because if that sells for a record price, man, these digital collectibles are going to go up probably, and then the digital is going to go up, then the physical is going to go up, and they're just going to keep pushing each other, and it's exciting. I see it. We're seeing it now, and that's what I'm pumped about.
And I'm definitely excited the fact, because after looking more into this, I saw that a lot of people like Sleepin' Comics.
Oh, big shout out to Sleeping Comics, amazing guy. Follow him on his channel.
I watched his stuff, and I was like, okay, he has like Fantasy 15s on his wall and things like that. And I like the fact that people use this as like a supplemental, like it complements each other. And definitely, I would say that the people are in the NFT space are, like you said, didn't know much about comics and are more of like the crypto type of people, and that's why they're in this space. And that makes me excited that they're also getting into comics as well. So I do like that aspect. I see comics on your wall right there. Giant size.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a 6.5 or a 4.5?
It's a 6.5 actually. And what's really cool about this one, it's actually signed by Roy Thomas and Len Wein and Herb Trimp and Stan Lee. So it's signed by like
Stan Lee on there.
I
think most of those people are dead.
They are. Yeah. So this one, this is one of the few comics that will never, leave my family. Like this.
What's the other one above there? I can't see it.
It's a Turtles comic.
Which Turtles?
It's a. Sorry, 1 second. There we go. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. It's the Archie set, but
okay.
Yeah. But I got a few more on the side right here, but I don't want to sidetrack us. This is actually my pride and joy right here. This thing.
Yeah, he's been working on that thing for years.
Yeah, I've taken to a lot of comic shows. And
who's it signed by? Actors or
the first? Oh no, these are all comic book artists. And the first one actually right here is Stan Lee, right before he passed away. But Sam De La Rosa's on there, Mike Zeck, John Beatty, Jim Shooter, Sam De La Rosa, Jim Lee, Frank Miller. Like I was able to meet all these guys. It was really cool. Yeah. Rob Liefeld too.
Yeah, we just got the Rob Liefeld one, back in December.
Which, by the way, what's really cool about these NFT
did he make you pay for it?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, of course, yeah. What do you mean? They gotta make their money somehow.
But what's really cool about these NFT collectibles again is the fact that there are commission sales, but it's not all going to Marvel. I mean, it's going to the artists that created these characters, like
which
Rob
Liefeld. I do like.
That's so cool. Yeah, because Rob Liefeld told us that in person, that he's getting a commission sale off every comic book sale, which is wild. Yep. I feel like Marvel's trying to make amends, for the past. And it's really that's a
trying to make money.
Well, I mean, but we're giving Rob Liefeld the commissions of the sale. That's a huge deal.
But the thing is, like, Rob Liefeld doesn't need the money. It's more of like the smaller artists and the older artists that got.
Well, they'll also presume they'll also be getting the same deal.
Yeah.
Like if they created the characters, they get the commission off of it. I mean, Spencer. I mean, talk about Jose Delbo.
Yeah. I mean, for example, like, so I do consulting in the NFT space for a company called Apollo NFT, and our main client that we manage is Jose Delbo, who's a legendary comic book artist for DC and Marvel. He drew Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, Transformers, like all these Thundercats, all these incredible characters. But yeah, he's 88 years old, and my company, his grandson is actually the one who founded the company. But we basically introduced him to the NFT space. You know, pretty much the way it went down was, you know, the pandemic hit, and, you know, the primary way that most, you know, for the people in the audience that don't know, primary way that most comic book artists make their money, you know, is they go to comic book shows and they do signings, and they do, you know, they do drawings, and they sell fan art and stuff like that. But, you know, he wasn't able to make his money doing that during the pandemic. But they saw an opportunity with NFTs, and so now they've, you know, the first ever drop they did was actually a self-published comic book that was released as an NFT. You know, so he has like basically the credit is the first ever NFT comic book. So yeah, that sold back in like July 2020. And, you know, since then, you know, we've done probably close to $12 million in gross sales with, you know, with Jose and his artwork. And, you know, he's made more money in just the past year and a half than he did in probably his entire career as a comic book artist.
30, 40 plus years easily.
Yeah.
That's
even like probably 6 decades, I think his career was.
Incredible.
So yeah.
It's incredible.
That is, I mean, you know, I'm a musician, so, you know, I'm in the art space. I don't draw, but it's art like, and so it's like anytime, you know, artists can get paid, you know, I'm definitely all for that, especially with like royalties and things like that.
For sure.
So that, yeah, I definitely like that. When Sean told me that on the phone, I was like, okay, that's cool. That's definitely cool. What about the writers? Just the artists?
No, unfortunately, the writers don't, and that's not because actually we met Donnie Cates as well, and he did Thanos 13, FAF Cosmic Ghost Rider, and I had him actually digitally sign the comic on the iPad. He had no idea what the hell's going on, so he signs it, and he's like, "What's an NFT?" He didn't even know his comics were on there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like that's tough. Yeah, but
that would be interesting if you could get the artist to digitally sign your NFT, and then it's like minted that way.
That'll be coming.
So that's coming. And what's really cool about that, David, is actually Tom Brady's created a company called Autograph.io, which actually so on DraftKings they released their first NFTs, and Tom Brady digitally signed with like a digital pen on iPad his signature, and they implemented that onto the NFT. So I mean, talk about true authenticity. That is awesome. Being able to have the opportunity to send your comic books, your NFTs worldwide, to have the artist sign, like that's so cool through a trusted system. I mean, that is true authenticity.
I mean, that is cool. But here, one of the things I kind of, it's always in the back of my mind. It's like, so most of these NFTs, right, is to live in a digital world, like a metaverse. Right. And technically there's tons of metaverses that already exist. Like VeVe is a metaverse in its own. Right. Can't you like live in a little thing and see your collection? Like in the digital.
There's a showroom to display your stuff. But yeah, it's not really a metaverse yet, but it will be getting there eventually.
So my question is, because whose metaverse is going to be the one that wins? Because, you know, Facebook was going to have one, Google's going to have one, Apple's going to have one, Tesla's going to have one. I mean, eBay will have one. Everyone will have one. Anyone that has enough money to build a metaverse. Like there's digital land being sold by some random company for millions of dollars. I'm like, I don't even know what this company is. So what happens when Facebook makes a metaverse and sells their digital land? So my question is like, what happens when Facebook makes let's pretend like, you know, Facebook and Apple and Google, they have like the main metaverses and they're all competing with each other, kind of like streaming services. They have a bunch of different ones, or, you know, video game consoles. What happens to like VeVe comic books? Does Facebook then go, well, we're going to license Marvel and make our own comic books in our metaverse, which then kind of makes VeVe obsolete because say they chose to go with some eBay's metaverse and that kind of flopped, you know? Or, you know, because I think eBay had their own PayPal before called Bill Payment, and that flopped, and then they had to take on Buy PayPal. So what happens, or if Apple's the one that makes the best metaverse that most people are in, and, you know, they have DC and Marvel belongs to some other one, you know, you see what I'm saying? Like, so that's, you know, I'm like, well, whose metaverse is going to be the main one that wins? And what if VeVe attached them to the wrong horse, you know, or it's carriage to the wrong horse, so to speak?
Yeah, the way that I look at metaverses is kind of like social networks. It's like everybody kind of has their preference, and it's where their friends hang out, and it's, you know, how they interact with their communities, and just like that, there's going to be different metaverses where people are going to want to hang out. You know, if somebody's friends, you know, are in Decentraland, but, you know, none of their friends are in Sandbox, then they're going to go hang out in Decentraland. You know, so I think it's going to work very much like that, and I think there's room for multiple to exist and coexist. And another important aspect of that is that there will be interoperability between them for assets. So you'll be able to bring, a comic book into, it doesn't really matter, if it's created in a specific metaverse or whatever. It's just an NFT asset and it lives in your blockchain wallet, which means that assuming that metaverse decides to support that asset, you'll be able to use it in that environment.
Well, that's where like my concern is, because you can buy Call of Duty and I have a PlayStation and my friend has an Xbox. We cannot play each other, even though it's the same game, because Xbox and PlayStation refuse to support each other. So you could get an NFT, and if Facebook, whatever metaverse it is, refuses to support that because their competition is Mimi or whatever it's called, right? Something else that has comic books, and they're like, no, we're not going to take VeVe. We don't want that because we have our own comic book and digital collectible that we're trying to thing. So that's like my concern. It's like, okay, like it has to live in one of these ones that wins, but which one is the one? And I guess it's kind of like you said, the Xbox people play with the Xbox people, the PlayStation play with PlayStation people, Switch people play with Switch people, even though they're all playing the same game. That's like a concern of mine. What if you have multiple Spider-Man ones existing in all these different metaverses?
Yeah, well, so that wouldn't happen because Marvel is the licensor. Marvel controls what gets created, and everything that happens. And if anything, I think it's the other way around. It's not necessarily like whether or not like a metaverse wants to support Marvel. It's more like, does Marvel want to give permission for that metaverse to use their licensed products?
And what if they do?
Nothing wrong with that. Great.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
I think the more that they're spread around and the more places that they have exposure, the better. Like they're incentivized to have these things seen by as many people as possible. So they're going to want to have these things, supported everywhere.
It would be like is renting collectibles is a huge asset that's going to be
renting collectibles, man.
No, just not just renting collectibles, but imagine, but think about this, like for Call of Duty. You have a specific some assets that you've bought or that you've grown over a period of time through gameplay. And now you've achieved so much over a period of time that you can't earn it by buying, but you earn by playing, right? So these assets that you've grown over time, you can now rent them out to people that want to use them.
That's interesting.
And that's what an NFT is.
Or if you had a digital world and you're having your digital friends over for a digital party, you could rent some nice digital NFTs to hang on your digital wall. For the night,
parties,
instead of
events.
buying it.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people
do that with physical stuff. They have a party, they rent nice stuff to have around.
And especially not even just metaverse, but also AR. Like if you, we're going to be in a world in the near future where you're going to put glasses on, you're going to see a world that you couldn't see without glasses. I mean, Apple's coming out potentially next year with their AR glasses. And that's going to be a game changer. You're going to walk into a room and you're going to have digital collectibles, digital TVs all over your house. And there could be a lot of opportunity here with that stuff for sure.
Yeah, and there's already a lot of people in the VeVe space that are like preparing for the VeVeverse, which is VeVe's metaverse that they're creating, and they're like basically planning to have like businesses. So like there's people who've been hoarding up like Back to the Future hoverboards because they think that those will be usable in the metaverse, and you'll be able to rent those out. So people are actually planning on basically having like a hoverboard rental business.
They're hoarding
hoarding the NFTs.
I thought like the toys, like
no.
You're gonna engineer those to fly.
No, it's like hoarding the NFTs, so then like people can rent them out in the metaverse and then go use them to go soar around and explore and stuff like that. Or like they just released like a what was it, a 007 James Bond Triumph motorcycle for that for example, somebody could start a motorcycle rental company or something like that. So
and this Saturday they're releasing the first ever Aston Martin car NFT, which is from the James Bond film, which looks absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I'm so excited for it. Yeah,
I know, me too.
So
let's go.
I guess a lot of this hinges on the metaverse and what people. I think when a lot of people think metaverse and like not the peak, but the near future metaverse, Ready Player One. That's like in most people's minds, where you have some kind of vest that you physically wear in a physical space, and you have something you can run on where you can run in all directions. So you're physically experience this instead of sitting with a controller going like this and having something strapped to you. So, I mean, a lot of this hinges on that. I mean, I could see Ready Player One obviously in the future, but me personally, I'm like, because I watched Facebook's announcement of their metaverse or whatever they call it. I don't know. And I'm like, this looks stupid. Like, I don't want to be a big robot. Mark Zuckerberg's is himself in a cartoony version. There's another guy's a big robot. Another person's like a hologram. And they're playing poker around a table in a space station. I'm like, yeah, this will be a novelty that I'm like, oh, this is cool. Okay, take it off. like Ready Player One, that looks fun.
Yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg's plan, and I get it. This is the start of $180 billion he's investing over 10 years.
Probably.
So I think that's what
I wouldn't be surprised.
10 years, 180 billion. And I get it. This is like just the beginning. But I'm like, well, until you show me something a lot more fun than that. Like, I just
but that's actually a really good reference, because that's a movie with a metaverse that has tons of licensed brands. And that's what VeVe is doing right now. That's what they're doing right now. They're building that kind of platform. So, but at the same time, as the metaverse is cool, I'm excited for AR. I'm excited about enhancing.
I'm more excited about AR than VR.
About. Yeah. Like being able to actually like put on AR glasses and play. Like, you have Pokemon, right? You have Pokemon characters that you can build up.
I used to play Pokemon Go. That's
AR. Exactly. Oh, so there we go. Yes, you actually build up your characters. You can battle them. You can battle them in your living room or outside, anywhere in the world. Actually see them battle in AR. Like, that's cool.
I think I was like, I don't know, like 30 or something like that when it came out. I can't remember exactly when. And I'd go out there and I'd go to like I got to find these cool Pokemon. And I'd go to like random schools and like at night, and there's like a ton of little kids and then there's me. It's like trying to catch Pokemon. we went to this mall. It was like remember when it was super huge when it like first launched? I went to the mall after hours, and there's this like hundreds, if not thousands of kids just trying to catch, because they're always different Pokemon in different areas. And there's security guards like yelling, "Get off the property, the mall is closed," because it's an outdoor mall.
Yeah, they know.
We were calling the police. And I'm like a 30-year-old. There's much like
you're out there trying to catch this thing. Like,
yeah.
That's hilarious.
So I mean, I grew up with Pokemon. I grew up with the cards and the game and stuff. So I love Pokemon. I mean, that would be great if like that was real life. Like, oh, I don't have to have a job to go find Pokemon all day long.
Exactly. So
I'm 100% would love like a Ready Player One metaverse type thing.
Yeah, we're all rooting for that too. We're all on the same page there.
And I tried the Oculus. It was probably Oculus 1, maybe Oculus 2. They had it at Best Buy, and I remember I had to stand. I was Batman or something. You stand on the edge of this building that's like 1,000 stories high, and for a second there, I was like lost my balance. But I'm standing in Best Buy. So I mean, I see the appeal, and I definitely want it. There's this thing called Sandbox VR where I live. It's like a big warehouse where you go and you can like put on the goggles and shoot aliens. I wanted to try that.
Treadmills and things like that. Is that what?
No, it's an actual physical space, like warehouse that you run through.
Oh, cool.
I'm sure. And the way they have it, so it's like, imagine there's like in your VR space, there's like a big wall. They'll put like a big padded wall, and they have it perfectly set up. So it's like if you run into like a box or something, they actually put a box there.
Yeah.
So
and
you shoot zombies and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it closed down because of COVID, and I'm not sure if it ever reopened. It like opened, and then COVID happened, and then it closed down.
Classic.
So, but yeah. So I mean, this is all very interesting stuff. I enjoyed talking with you guys. I have a couple. I asked my subscribers to ask questions, so I just have a couple that I'm just going to run by you, because I don't want to run everything, because we're already at like over an hour. Triple G Comics asked, because I wanted real questions, I didn't want troll questions. Do you actually own the NFT? Speaking of VeVe, because I read somewhere that about the VeVe clause saying that VeVe actually owns it and not you. So that's not true at all.
No.
Okay.
No, you own the NFT. You have ownership over it. Yeah. It's just in a centralized system.
Okay. And then Monty Vaughn asked, why did you invest in VeVe? Probably speaking to you guys. Is it because of their IPs? Or is it because I know there's like OpenSea, and it's just, I look on there, I'm like,
Yeah.
Why would I want to buy this? Like some
Exactly.
random
So
digital paint by me, pretty much.
yeah, and there's a lot of artists that are really, really big on OpenSea. But for VeVe specifically, what got me and Spencer really excited is that they're licensed through these big
their
brands.
IPs.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what we focus on. What we preach is like focus on IPs. Make sure you research your investment, know what you're investing in. But also
I was gonna say, like, I think, like, NFTs, a lot of stuff it's gonna bust. 95% of NFTs are not gonna do well, but just like physical collectibles and comic books, they generally hold their value really, really well. We think that licensed collectibles and NFTs will hold their value a lot better than a lot of the other just crap that's out there.
And to add to that, go ahead, David. Sorry, go ahead.
To speak on comics, and that's what I always try to preach to people on my channel is like, not every comic book is going to be valuable. There's like a slew of comics in the last 20 years where it's like 99% of them aren't valuable. It's just the keys, and there's reasons why, and more maybe obscure variants or cool cover variants. But most comics, like if you take a run of whatever the latest Aquaman is, it'd be like all of them are pretty much like worthless except a few of them, and it might be worth barely anything unless it's some key appearance or some cool variant that was rare or something like that. I mean, even Spider-Man,
or the MCU starts to decides to do like a storyline or something like that from the comic.
Something that spikes the book.
And to add to that, David, another reason why we're excited about investing in an IP is because of the utility that could come behind these NFTs. So when I say utility, it could be perks for ownership, right? So for example, if you own one of the Walt Disney statues, the partner statues that were released on VeVe, there's 4,333 of them. There's no reason Disney can't come out tomorrow and say, hey, everyone who owns that statue gets a free admission to all Disney parks worldwide for life. And that's real life utility.
I mean, that would be insane if they did that.
It would be insane. But that's the kind of utility they could do. I'm not saying it's pure speculation at this point. But it's possible. And they have the power and resources to do that. And same with these statues, these Marvel statues. Same with Spider-Man. Whoever adds a Spider-Man statue, you get to see a free Marvel film for life.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean really, there's plenty of opportunity there. The utility, that's what's key.
Yeah, I mean, especially when the VeVe-verse, the VeVe metaverse comes out, like that's where I think a lot of the utility is going to come as well.
Well, to speak on that, I think like a lot of people why they have pause is, I mean, obviously a lot of people that my general audience is like 34 to like 55 is what YouTube says it is. So it's, I mean, definitely an older crowd. But and even I have this, it's like, yes, the digital world metaverse would be fantastic. Ready Player One, having your digital, showcase, all this kind of stuff with VeVe, anything like that. But the reality is we are still physical beings having to live in a physical space. And like, I'm like, okay, because of that, you have to interact with the physical. You don't have to interact with the digital. And
it's like webcams and stream to the internet.
I mean, that's true. That's what I do that all the time. But I do have to sleep in a physical house, in a physical bed, and eat physical food, right?
So remind me to Venmo you later.
So, I mean, you do have to be physical, right? You have to interact physically. You can want to live in a digital space all you want, but you're actually living in a physical world, experiencing a digital world.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, they go hand in hand.
World of Warcraft is basically a metaverse in its own. Like people will be addicted and be on there until they have to fall asleep.
Exactly. Yeah.
But they eventually have to fall asleep in a physical space. So like my thing with physical comics compared to digital comics is maybe physical comics is, it's physical, but there's kind of almost, it feels like there's more, I don't know if utility is the word I'm looking for, but more, because it's not limited to being on VeVe or limited to a digital space, you can technically take it wherever you want. Granted, it's a physical item, but you can sell it to whoever you want. With VeVe, it's like you have to either sell it to someone, you have to eventually sell it through VeVe, whether you go through Discord to facilitate the deal. It like kind of almost limits you, I guess, is what I'm saying. And I just don't want people to, like, my biggest thing is when like thinking that they're one and the same, and more thinking that they complement each other, I guess, is so to speak. Is like, yes, we can we can play our World of Warcraft and we can live in this digital space, in this metaverse and all that kind of stuff. And that's great. And we can have digital collectibles. And you have things that are utilized, NFTs that you use in a video game or something. That's fantastic. But just also understand that the physical is also exists too, and they are separate.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to go back on that real quick, they actually have announced that they're able to take the indie artists off of VeVe. You will eventually be able to get the independent artists. So like Ron English and Frank Kozik, they're independent pop artists and pop culture artists, and you can take their digital collectibles soon off of VeVe and sell them on like Immutable X and OpenSea. Now it really comes down to the licensor. It's not the licensee's decision on this. It's all Marvel and Disney. If Marvel and Disney say we don't want these to leave VeVe, they're not going to leave VeVe. If we want them to leave VeVe, they'll leave VeVe. They can take these when their contract ends. They can take all these NFTs and leave whenever they want. It's up to Marvel and Disney. So like all these decisions are based off of Marvel and Disney.
Yes, 100%. They own it. It's the same with, they have a contract, probably X amount of years. And then when that expires, Marvel does whatever they want. Just like Daredevil, it's off of Netflix now. And it's probably going to Hulu because it's too gory for, Disney Plus. But yeah, or they do whatever. Maybe they shell it. I have no idea. Yeah. I mean, they've shelled stuff before. So maybe they're coming out with their own Daredevil Disney Plus streaming, original content.
Well, I feel very confident Daredevil's coming back.
Oh yeah, I mean, he was spoiler alert. He was in Spider-Man.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it by now, it's on you.
I know that's. I did this video where I was like, okay, spoiler alert, blah 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 blah, and like, oh, you did it too quick. And I'm like, how long? Like, it's one of the biggest movies ever, and like, how long do I have to wait?
It's the most viewed movie trailer of all time within 24 hours.
Spider-Man was?
Yeah. Spider-Man was, yeah.
Wow.
That's how popular Spider-Man, that character is. It's crazy worldwide how popular he is. It's amazing.
Like when I do comics, a lot of times I'll talk about Spider-Man comics. And I was like, why do you always talk about Spider-Man? Why don't you talk about so-and-so? I'm like, because most people like Spider-Man. They just do. I mean, I like Spider-Man. He's not my favorite, but he's definitely up there. He's just cool. Like,
there's a reason why his 9.6 sold for $3.6 million. And that's without crypto. Can you imagine if you could use ETH or Bitcoin to buy with that thing? Who knows? We'll probably see NFT prices.
That is
get crypto on your website, David.
no, seriously, you should accept crypto.
I'm serious. We're dead serious, by the way.
We're dead serious. Yeah.
You will see record prices you can possibly dream of.
Dead serious about accepting crypto.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
As a form of auction. Yeah. It's gonna be.
I mean, that's definitely something we would definitely look into. We still have a ton of stuff. Like I was talking to Sean after my video came out. I was someone got my contact and called me about how they're building. It's two developers that do Web 3.0, and they're talking about how they use NFTs. And they were more on my side skeptical as a collectors. They were talking about more using it as a digital key, because what they're trying to do, they're called NFT Knox, like Fort Knox, because they wanted to partner with me, is they will take a comic book, say it's graded by CGC, serial number is XYZ. I'll take this one for example, because this is on my desk. So they would take this, Spider-Man 1/8, and they would make a digital copy, NFT of that. And then they would store it in basically like a physical lockbox. And that NFT is basically the key to get in that lockbox. Now, if you wanted to, you could ask for them to ship you the physical comic, and they would. Or you could keep it in their digital lockbox. And I think what you can do is basically you would, instead of actually ever owning the physical comic, because maybe it's too expensive, maybe you want to pay for overhead, maybe you don't want to pay for insurance, all that kind of stuff, you could basically trade and sell the NFT on their marketplace. And then at any point, I would buy an NFT, of a Fantasy 15. I'm like, I want to have that. And so I just contact the company, and then I could get it in. So they were approaching it as more of an NFT is basically a digital key. That's how they were approaching it.
Yeah, there's a number of platforms that are doing stuff like that. Yeah, one of my very close friends it's called Viridian Exchange, is building a platform very similar to that, and they're starting out launching with Pokemon cards, and then moving eventually into comic books.
Yeah, I think it's just right now it's the wild west of this whole space, and we don't know what's going to happen, who's going to be on top, who's going to, last. And that's kind of like my thinking of this is like, it's so early, and that's why it's risky in some of these things. And it's like a risk reward type of thing.
When I think about that though, then I realize, think about the biggest brands in the world investing in the space, heavily investing in the space because they believe in it. And, there's something I've learned on VeVe, follow the whales. Follow the whales, and in this space, follow the big brands. And that's that's what's happening right now. You're seeing all these big brands, they're all in on this metaverse. They're all in on NFTs. It's happening.
Like Nike, for example. I don't know if you saw this, they just acquired Artifact Studios not too long ago. Artifact Studios is like more or less like the supreme of the metaverse. They do digital fashion. They've made really cool like digital sneakers, and they created this whole big avatar project as well. But Nike just acquired them, and now like you look at like Nike's banner, you see like the Nike logo, the Converse logo, the Jordan logo, and now you have Artifact Studios on there now. That's too
crazy.
It's like now like considering like metaverse and NFTs like a core part of their brand.
Well, everything's just going to be owned by like 5 companies. That's
like the media is now.
This 5 companies will own everything.
Well, it's not necessarily owning it. They're creating it for other people to own.
Yeah. Oh, I meant like the companies. Like, have you ever seen Idiocracy?
Yeah.
Okay. So like Costco owns like everything. You buy your food through Costco, your homes through Costco. Like that's what it's gonna be like. It's like one company just like owns everything. Like Amazon will own like most everything. So But it was great talking to you guys. I've learned a lot.
Likewise. I actually want to talk about one more thing real quick before we break is the differentiating value. Because I know you mentioned about the mint numbers. So there's 30,000 of the same thing. Like how do you differentiate the value between those, right? So what we've come to, actually, Spencer, if you want to, Spencer's created a system that actually connects the mint numbers to the Cgc Grading Scale. And for a lot of people that don't know out there, if the lower the mint number, since it's the first that was minted, is the more valuable. Now, there's been other circumstances where you have mint numbers that are like connected to specifically to the NFT. So like 1955 was the year Disneyland opened. So like the Walt statue, that'd be very significant. Or like 1901 when Walt Disney was born, that's very significant. That comes off as like a 1 of 1. But Spencer, go ahead and dive into the system that you created. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, so it's really just a percentage-based system. So using the Cgc grading scale, so like for example, a book that is in the top 2% mint numbers of a collection, we would consider that to be a 9.8. Or if it's in the top 10%, it would be a 9.0. And so you kind of just use the percentages to create those bands and line it up next to the Cgc grading scale. But we developed the system just because we are trying to bridge the gap between physical and digital collecting, and especially for comic books. And we felt that the physical collectors that we really want to bring into the VeVe space would resonate and understand that grading scale, and it would make a lot of sense to them.
Yeah, and in the audience,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that the audience right now, they value numbers. Like it's very important to them, and they pay a premium for it. I've been involved in transactions that people pay a lot of money purely based off the mint number. And that's how you
and we have too, personally.
Yeah,
so.
And that's how you differentiate the value, right? So very much like a graded comic book. I mean, I understand that you assess the comic based on the degradation, but really,
the degradation is the differentiation.
It is exactly, but for the macro, it's really the same cover, but the number is really what differentiates the value. So that's why, in a way, it kind of translates well to the NFT space. Yeah. And what's super exciting, which this is what gets me really excited. Like I can't sleep at night because of this sometimes, but like. For example, like Fantastic Four number 5, right? There's only 3 9.6s in existence on the CGC census. If you have a secret rare on VeVe, which is only a 600 total editions, and it's a 9.8, so it'd be 600 mint number below. Or actually, let's put it this way: if it's a 9.9, it'd be 300 mint number and below. So someone has like a mint number 250, it could only be 1 out of that 100. So you have a 9.9 graded secret rare comic. There's no 9.8 or 9.9 graded in existence in the physical world. Yeah. So does that mean that this could possibly be worth more than a 9.6, a comic that we may never ever sell in existence? And if it does, here's the cool part about that though, and why everybody should be rooting for the space. Because if that does sell for over $1 million plus $1 million, that's going to complement the physical side. It's going to bring up the value of these physical comic books. We're all on the same team, guys. Like it's going to be a huge win for everyone. So you should root for them. Yeah.
Oh yeah. like I said, I'm not the one that tells people what to collect and not collect. For example, like I brought up stamps or toy trains. Like, I don't get it, but there's people that will pay a ton of money for it.
I know people that collect toy trains. Yeah.
And that is not
That's
my
awesome.
decision to make. And that is not my thing to, say like, oh, how dare you? That's worthless garbage. But this paper with ink on it, this is worth $1 million. This is valuable. It's paper and ink. Come on. Like if you boil it down, that's all it is. This is just paper with ink on it. That's really what it is.
Right?
But
but
yeah, I would say with that the grading system, the only difference is the reason why like a 9.8 is more desirable than a 2.0 is because like this is a 1.8, and I mean I don't know if you can tell, but there's like staining all along here where the cover is worn. Like look at the back cover, like it's less desirable because it looks worse. So it's put it on your wall,
and also because it's 1.8.
Yeah, and it's a 1.8. So a 9.6 is going to look flawless, next to flawless.
That's exactly our point.
But
you're right.
Yeah. So I mean that would be the difference. But I enjoyed talking with you guys.
Dave, you're so awesome, man. It was a great time talking to you. I love your content, man. Like thanks for having us on.
I mean, you guys are definitely very open. It was nice having a conversation. I didn't feel like I was bombarded. I felt a little like that on my comics. I'm like, my God, chill out, people. And it's like, whatever, they're passionate about it. I get it. And so it was nice when Dan reached out to me, I was like, oh, okay. So you guys aren't all just, trying to, just be whatever. And,
big shout out to Dan Chabelle for putting this together.
Yeah. And then talking with you guys, and you guys are very, cool to talk to. So
you got to come on our podcast next, man. We'd love to have you on.
Yeah, we'd love to have you on.
Yeah, it's interesting. A bunch of people reached out and wanted me on the podcast. Their VeVe podcast.
That's awesome.
Like, I guess I'm doing this one, so I'll So, but yeah, it was definitely fun having you guys on. I definitely learned something. I hope other new viewers and older viewers learn something. And I think there's, like I said, I'm not the one to tell people what to do with their money and collect and whatnot. And like, if people generally love this, then do what you love. So that's how I think.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, collect what you love.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So awesome. All right. Later.
Cool. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks.